it convinced me that absolutely I was on the right track. That, the sugar is a drug. It's a slow poison. It won't kill you tomorrow, but it'll kill you 40 years from when you start eating it.
Rob, how did you find carnivore?
Well, you like the most recent way was my mom had passed away last year, and it was late January, and I had been battling my weight and going off and on, and I had lost a lot of weight. Um, about I did. Atkins came out what 72, I think, when he first had his book, and I think I ran into some people that were on the Atkins diet, and must have been around 92 to 94, somewhere in there. And I saw that they were losing weight, and I remember there was one guy was putting butter on his steak, and I remember sitting there thinking, you can't lose weight putting butter on your steak. You're crazy. And but the one thing that I did notice was they were losing weight. My friends that were on it were losing weight, and I had been struggling with weight, probably since my late teens, early 20s. And and that, I kind of tried it, and switched to light beer. I tried to stay away from carbs, but I wasn't really all that serious. I think maybe at the time I was 30 pounds overweight, something like that. So wasn't, I mean, you were heavy, but you could get away with it, sort of. And so from there, uh, I guess I kept getting weight, getting into my 40s, and at my heaviest, I was 264 pounds. I think it's 120 kilograms, about that, and 5'7". That's a lot of weight to have on a 5'7" frame. I couldn't bend over. I mean, I could bend over and tie my shoes, but it was uncomfortable to do so. And this was when I was in Alaska, so yo-yo dieting on and off, going into keto, going out. Um, and when COVID hit, I didn't want to stay home and get heavy. Like, I knew people were talking about that. I didn't want to do that. So I really went into the keto thing. And I found Dr. Jason Fung's book, The Obesity Code. And most of my life, I've been thinking, there's got to be an answer to this, because I had been dieting. I tried going vegan, but I just felt weak. Didn't work for me. Anybody would ask me, what do you want to eat? In the back of my head, I was always thinking, well, I'd really like to have a steak. But I never said that because politically it wasn't right. You're supposed to want to eat vegetables. I didn't want a vegetable. I wanted a steak. But anyway, um, so we went on from there, and COVID hit, and I was doing the keto thing, but I was eating like the keto crap, like the keto cookies and the keto bars. I was losing weight, but I wasn't feeling that good. And then my doctor she wanted to put me on blood pressure medicine. First, it was a diuretic. I said, okay. So they put me on a diuretic for my blood pressure. Then that wasn't doing it. Then they put me on like this real blood pressure medicine. And then that gave me gout. So then they put me on gout medicine. And then at this point, I was metabolically pretty unhealthy, and the lipid panels weren't very good. So now they wanted to put me on the statin. So I'm sitting there, at this point, I'm 48 around, and I'm thinking, I'm circling the drain here. They're putting me on more and more drugs. I've seen this story before. I'm not having it. I'm just not doing it. So I weaned myself off all their drugs, and my blood pressure was an issue, but I was doing really good. I got real strict with the keto, and I was 264. I went down to about 190 pounds. I went down to about 190. And then COVID was ending, and my wife and I decided that Alaska was a little too cold. We were getting a little too old. So we relocated back to Maine. She was staying in Chicago, and we had some land in Maine, but it wasn't developed. It was just raw land. So I basically landed with a tent and went to my uncle's house, borrowed a hatchet because I couldn't even get enough room to set my tent up in the woods. Right. And I started clearing. I'm like, well, now I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to do well. I'm going to, stay eating keto. I have land to clear. We got a house to build. I mean, basically homesteading from scratch. I'm going to do good. But the problem is I had so much to do that I didn't want to cook. Like, like I'm just like most guys, like, give me something I can put in my mouth, make the hunger go away. I get back to work. What happened was I ended up finding a jar of animal crackers, you know. So I just started with a few crackers, and then come back to when my mom passed away. So we go on from there about a year or so. I'm gaining weight. The mom dies. I'm sitting here. A friend stops by, and we're playing cards, and I'm holding the playing cards, and I noticed like my man boobs are coming together. So I went and I asked my wife. I said, "Did I gain some weight back?" And she said, "Yes, you look like you put on 30 pounds." At that point I've had it. I'm done. I'm done with this. I don't want to be this heavy anymore. And I think I sent you a picture. I mean, I was, pretty well blown up there. And so that was it. I really got serious. I ran into Dr. Mindy Pell's video about intermittent fasting. So I added intermittent fasting in. Then Dr. Ken Berry, I ran into his videos. I really started watching him. I watched Melinda Peterson, I believe is her name, Jordan Peterson's daughter there.
Mm.
And I just started thinking about that guy that was putting butter on his steak way back when. I just, I'm going to try it. I'm going to do it. Why not? And so that's pretty much what I did. I started eating steaks. My wife wasn't pleased. My doctor was in a panic because I got a doctor here in Maine, and she was another one. Every time I go in there, she's got her script out and she's writing me these pills, and I keep telling her, I'm not taking it. The one thing I did kind of cave on was my blood pressure was getting crazy high. So, you know, I was seeing her before my mom had passed, and I gained that weight. So I was, kind of eating there, and my blood pressure was going up, and I decided, all right. I mean, blood pressure is a serious business, and my blood pressure was like, you know, I was called it a panic because it was 220 over like 180. Like I thought I was going to stroke out, and I couldn't get in to see a doctor. None of the clinics around would see me. I thought I was basically going to go home and have a stroke and die. I was on the internet. People, what can I do? Somebody help me. And I think that was another thing that really pushed me. So, anyway, after I'd been on it about, I don't know, like 6 or 8 months, finally I started weaning off the meds, like I went from, let's see, the doctor had me on almost three. Oh, here's another story. So those diuretics, I didn't know those diuretics suck potassium out of people, right? And I didn't know that low potassium can give you heart problems. So the doctors got me on these diuretics, and I keep telling them I can't take them. I can't walk across my yard. It makes me dizzy, you know. And what it was my potassium was getting so low, and the only way they found this out is that she was concerned when I was on the carnivore diet, so she made me go get a lipid test. When I got the lipid test, they happened to test for potassium, and I was so low they called the house, and they made me go for an emergency run to get potassium pills, and they put me on 2,000 milligrams of potassium that day. My heart was basically in trouble. I was going to die from these like these doctors. They don't listen to you when you tell them I cannot take this. You don't understand. It does not work for me. Somehow they think, you know, you may be an N of one, but you're still an N of one. They think they know better sometimes. So I did that, and I recovered from that, and then finally, again, I'm like, these doctors, they give me these pills that make me sick. I know it's supposed to help, but it's not helping me. So now we're 8 months in, I guess, and I'm off pretty much all of the medicine. I'm off, the gout medicine I don't need anymore. The high blood pressure, I was down to half a pill. Um, what else was I on? I was on like three or four things. But anyway, I got off them all, and to this day, I am still on that like half a blood pressure medicine pill, which I got. in my mind, I've got about 10, 15 more pounds to go. And I'm hoping when I hit like the year mark and I've been on carnivore for maybe 2 years, 3 years, that I can get rid of that last of that pill. But I do still watch my blood pressure. Yeah.
So what is your blood pressure at the moment? Is it like in a normal range right now?
Well, see, my blood pressure is the problem is at night. If I take my blood pressure like right now, it's going to be like 99 over 68. Some people go, well, it's low. But in the morning, it'll jack to like 180 over 95 or something like that, if I'm not on the pill. And if I'm on the pill, it seems to bring that morning, escalation down. It's not as bad. And even my doctor, she just scratches her head. But I think it's a family thing because my aunt said to me, she said, "Oh, my blood pressure is all over the place all the time." So it could just be a genetic thing. I'm not sure. But when it was, up in the 200s, that's something you really want to be careful of.
Right. Yeah. So it's been 8 months total now, or has it been longer
Well,
than that?
it's almost, yeah. So end of January, and we're in November, so 10 months, I suppose. About.
Right. Nice. And your you said your weight had got down to I wrote
Oh,
it down somewhere. I've lost it. It's one
yeah. Now it's at
190
the present. It's 164. Last time I was at the doctor's.
from where you were, 264. That's like 100 pounds down, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
When I get to my goal weight, I'll have lost a total of 110 pounds. I was wearing a 46 size pants. I'm now in a 32. So yeah, yeah, I was a
Nice.
big boy.
Yeah. And
But what's
so
nice
the
now?
you
Go
don't
ahead.
have the issue with the man boobs now.
Well, I still got that 10, 15 pound less pound. I want to, still get down there. But my wife, she hugs me. She says, "Oh, you're all bones now." So, so that's good.
Yeah. So I guess playing cards is a bit easier now, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Bending over, tying my shoes. I think I had sent you that thing. I got that little homestead channel. So I'm making videos. I lost enough weight where I got confident enough to make a little YouTube channel. And when I'm out there building the house, sometimes you're bending over, standing on your head doing something. And, boy, I can move now. My back doesn't hurt. My joints don't ache. I've got more energy. My next birthday, I'll be 60 years old and I'm, swinging a sledgehammer. I just feel great. I really do. I've got a lot of energy. I mean, I feel fantastic. I don't think I felt this good in 30 years. Really. It's probably been 30 years.
It's an
Yeah.
amazing feeling, right? Because it's like aging backwards or like this rebirth that's happened, you know? It's
It, I really feel like it's like almost like a second life. Like I get to do the grown up thing a little bit better this time because I've got the wisdom and now I've got the energy to do it. Like most people my age, like I see these guys and they're on all these drugs and they feel like crap and the lipid drugs make their bodies hurt and they can barely move and it's a struggle to get through the day and when they're done, I'm what's next? Like what are we doing? Let's go, right? I'm
yeah.
just happy. I'm just thankful, really, just really thankful. Because
Mm.
I was miserable before. I remember in April walking out. I was going to the barn to feed the pony or something, and I walked out of the woodshed, and I looked up, and the sun was shining. I just remember feeling like it was like this weight was off of me. The depression that I know I've heard other people talk about it. I never thought of myself as depressed, and I don't think I was ever a depressed person, but there was definitely an elevation in my mood, you know, definitely.
Yeah, it's kind of you made me think of something there, you know. Often as we get older, we talk about how youth is wasted on the young, you know, and if someone says, "Would you like to be younger?" and it's like, "Well, I'd like to be younger again, but I wouldn't like to I'd like to keep the wisdom that I've got now, and
Right.
it's almost like that, right?
Yes. Yeah, and that wisdom was hard earned. I mean, I don't know about you,
Right?
but some of the knocks were pretty tough. You know?
Right? It's, the school of life is pretty tough, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, if you don't
Yeah,
find humility, it will find you.
right.
Yeah.
So, in these last 10 or so months, how have you been eating day to day? Like, how many times, and what are the meals made up of?
So I try to eat between 2 and 6, and I basically am just I'm pretty strict carnivore. Every once in a while, like maybe once or twice a month, I'll have some blueberries with cream, you know, like maybe like, a third of a cup of blueberries with cream. And that's about it. But besides that, it's basically I do a lot of jerky. I buy a chuck roll, a whole front quarter of a cow, and I cut that up. I did a little video on how to do that because that saves you the cost. And I mean, it's not cheap here in the States to buy beef. I think it averages, somewhere around $14 a pound. And if you buy a chuck roll and you cut it up, you can get it basically for hamburger price for $4.99 a pound. So you're getting chuck steaks, which is not the best cut of meat, but it's not the worst. And if you cut it right, you're getting roasts out of it. You can get Denver steaks out of it the way we do it. So that's a pretty good value. So I do that. Um, Bacon, we have chickens. So I get eggs. Let's see, butter. Basically, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, like Dr. Barry talks about. You know what? That's pretty much what I've been eating. Yeah.
And is that kind of just it's a short window, so is that basically just once a day?
Um, 2 to 6. No, like
Yes.
I come in. Here's another thing. Most of my life, I've always thought, I could probably eat once a day at 3 o'clock and be fine, because I've never was one for breakfast anyway. I'd have a cup of coffee, and I would never eat breakfast, and I'd go to lunch, and it was, usually fast food or something crappy when I was working, and not really into this. Um, but I think that saved me. I think I could have been, a lot worse if I hadn't. I didn't know it was intermittent fasting, but even then, skipping breakfast, just my whole life, I just never really ate breakfast. So now I just pushed my lunch to a couple hours to 2. So I eat my lunch at 2, then I have my dinner at 6, and then I try not to have anything else. I'm not perfect, but that's basically what I try to stay to.
Oh, nice. And, so how is your wife with this now? Is she can see the results, right? So is
Oh
she
yeah,
a
yeah.
believer?
No, she still thinks I'm crazy. Yeah, she doesn't think it's healthy. She thinks that even the fasting, the intermittent fasting, you're not supposed to starve. If you were supposed to go without food, you wouldn't feel hungry. So she's not a big fan. My doctor's not a big fan, but I sure am. you know, I, I I mean, she acknowledges the results. It's not like she understands that it works for me, but it's just not something that some people just they're not going to do it
It's so counterintuitive, right?
because they've been brainwashed.
Mm.
Like she still keeps thinking like, because we kind of live on this homestead, so we've got a huge garden. So we got this great big garden that we grow that I put a lot of work into, and she looks at me, she's like, "You're not gonna eat any of this?" And you know, it's like we put all this work in here, and so I was just like, well, no, not really. I mean, if I was walking through, I'd grab a green bean or something, once in a while, but I really didn't. I really this year I didn't eat any produce very much at all. Just beef. Yeah, yeah,
And so but, your doctor, despite, you know, the way doctors are taught and that they're never really gonna see the benefits of doing this, she must see the results, like, she must notice that, well, things are getting better.
yeah, yeah. She even when my last lipid panel came back, she even smiled. I mean, like when I was telling her what I was doing and stuff, she didn't smile. She wasn't happy about anything I was doing. She thought I was crazy. And even now, she's still trying to put me on statins. I read the last, or Dr. Berry was talking about the last Harvard paper, I think this peer review paper that came out that said if you were on statins for like 2 decades, it'll add 5 days to your life. So I was talking to her about it, and she just would not believe it. She said, "Oh, I don't believe that." Maybe 4 or 5 years, and I said, "No," I said, "This is a peer review, Harvard medical, paper, And well, you'll have to send it to me. And I said, I will. I mean, she still can't believe it you know and it's not her fault. I mean, she's an older lady. She was you know I think she was in college in the 50s, so she's been schooled for the standard American diet her whole entire career. She's pretty much retired. She's not going to relearn any of this stuff. She's just going by what she was taught. But it's amazing how fast they pull out that little script book. You walk in there, I got a sniffle. They got something for it. It feels like my legs are itchy or whatever. They just keep giving you these scripts. It's crazy. It's like I'm
Yeah,
not taking your medicines.
it's almost like, when you say, "I've got this complaint," that you can see in their head, the cogs are turning around, and it's like, they light up as soon as they realize, "Oh, yeah, we've got a drug for that."
Yep, yep. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
see that. It's like they talk about these AGIs, these the artificial general intelligence. There, how they're going to be better doctors than the doctors that we have. But I think that's all they do. They program an algorithm. You come in with these symptoms, the AGI is going to go, this is what the symptoms are. These are the medicines. Boop, boop, boop. You're done. Out the door. It's a cog in a wheel. And I don't think that's what human beings are. I know that that's not how I respond to medicine. And from, watching your show and others, that's not how a lot of people are responding. And I told my doctor, she says, well, when I first started losing weight, she said, you've lost 70 weight. Big smile. And what are you doing? I said, I'm treating food as medicine. I'm healing myself with food. Well, how are you doing that? And then you tell her, well, I'm eating steak. And then you watch their, then they go, they're just the look on their face. It's hysterical sometimes. Like,
I
how do you
think
fix yourself?
I think also, when you say you're treating food as medicine, they probably think, "Oh, yes, herbs, and he's eating lots of veggies and all this kind of thing." And
Right.
then when you say steak, it's like, "Huh? What?"
That's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not close to medicine. That's gonna give you a heart attack, you
yeah.
know? The funny
So,
thing, my grandfather, when I was a kid, I remember my grandfather, they were talking about the fat was bad. This is back in the 70s. And my grandfather said, if you don't eat fat, you'll die of a heart attack. That's what he said. And people thought he was crazy. And he was a man 60 years ahead of his time, right?
yeah, I remember, I was early 20s, and, we were kinda just having this general discussion at work, and my boss at the time was talking about how, margarine was, like, lethal and everyone should be eating butter and all this kind of thing, and we were all looking at each other. We're all, like, early 20s, mid-20s, and we're looking at each other like, "This guy's crazy. What is he dissing margarine for?" Butter
Yeah.
is what's gonna kill you, and
Right.
we couldn't have been further from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
right the whole time.
Yeah. I saw a guy today. I was watching YouTube videos. A guy he was in northern Canada or something camping, and he had a piece of bread, and he said, I said, I'm putting margarine on my bread. And he's slathering margarine on. I was horrified. I was like, in today's day and age, he says, hey, I grew up on this stuff and I'm doing just fine. I guess you can't argue with him, but I'm sure as hell not going to eat it. But I think it was originally developed for like axle grease on submarines. Margarine was during World War II. And then they had all this grease left. And they were, what are we going to do with it? I don't know. Let's feed it to the people. Maybe they'll eat it. That's what they did.
Yeah, it's terrible when you actually realize where all this stuff comes from and that it was just a case of like, well, we need to get rid of it and people need energy, so let's just give it to them. And if they don't die, then it's probably okay.
Right. Right. So
It's
what they've
shocking.
done is instead of killing us quickly, they kill us slowly over 3 or 4 decades with sugar and carbohydrates and high fructose corn syrup and everything else in the standard American diet. At least in Europe, like you hear Americans, they say, "Well, when I go to Italy, I lose weight." How the hell is that possible when I'm eating all that pasta? They go to Italy and they eat all this food and they lose weight. They come back to the United States and they try to eat healthy and they're still getting fat. It's all the crap they're putting in our food. You know, if people don't do anything else, even if they don't want to go carnivore, but if they just eat whole foods, like if your great grandfather wouldn't recognize what it is, then don't eat it. And you're probably going to be a hell of a lot healthier.
Yeah, I always feel the good rule of thumb to follow is if there's a nutrition label on it, there's a pretty much 100% guarantee there is actually no nutrition contained in the food.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
why we shop around the perimeter of the grocery store, not
Right.
not the
Yeah.
interior, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. So have you had any friends show interest in this at all or question you about it?
No, not really. I mean, people have made comments, friends, I'd walk in the door and, "Oh my god, you're getting so thin and that's enough. You need to stop losing weight," and uh I was like, "Why? I feel good," Just I don't know. It's not I don't think anybody's got ill intentions. I just think that it's shocking when you lose 100 pounds. Well, in fairness, I was probably like 230 this time, so it was probably like 70 pounds for most of the people that know me here in Maine. But when they watch somebody lose 70 pounds, that's kind of shocking, especially when they do it in 10 months. You know,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a rapid amount of weight loss in 10 months. Yeah. So,
yeah.
yeah,
And the
that'd be
thing
pretty
is
shock.
I don't have all that like that loose like flabby skin. People getting their arms and all that stuff. I mean, I don't have any. Like I don't have all that flabby extra skin. And I really think I don't know if that's I think that has more to do with the intermittent fasting than the carnivore diet, but I can't say that for sure. It's just kind of a gut feeling. I think when that autophagy plays a part in that. I think it helps clear you out. I saw an article just today about autophagy helping with the plaque in your brain that causes dementia. That helps clear that out, and so I think the intermittent fasting is a good thing to add in with a carnivore diet. I really do.
Yeah. And how good is it that you have an eating window of only 4 hours, and then the rest of the time you don't eat and you have this stable feeling of energy that whole time. Like you can just go about a day like normal and not feel
Right,
tied to the fridge or to the kitchen.
right, right, right. Yeah, and if you're not always thinking about your next meal, and if your meals like I said, I'm kind of a typical dude. I'm pretty simple guy. Hungry, meat, eat. Not hungry, go back to work. That's kind of the way I am. So it's easy for me. And it's not like I don't wake up and never feel hungry. But as soon as I get busy doing something, it's not that I'm so hungry that I have to go get something to eat. It's that it's usually you're bored or something, or I'm not busy at the moment, my stomach gurgles, and then you kind of like get this whole thing, start chasing food or something. But once I was committed to just intermittent fasting and I stay with it, if I don't eat carbs, I don't get that hunger, and I get like you said, a stable level energy. And that's really something that especially in my case at 60, trying to build a farm from nothing, you really kind of need that stable energy. we
Right.
I was just reminded of a story when I was about 7 months in, and my son-in-law came to visit, and they had brought some little those sugar gummy worm things or something. And so they were sitting there, and and I had a drink. I think I had a glass of whiskey or something, and so I had one of them, and oh my, it was like when I don't know you ever done cocaine? I like, don't answer that. Let me put it this way: I've done cocaine, and the sugar craving was worse than coming off of cocaine. I just had that one gummy, and I was like, because I had been clean, like drinking just well water, eating meat, like seriously hardcore, like lion core carnivore. And then they showed up, and then I had that glass of whiskey, and I ate that little piece of sugary worm there. Boy, that it convinced me that absolutely I was on the right track. That you know the sugar is a drug. It's a slow poison. It won't kill you tomorrow, but it'll kill you 40 years from when you start eating it.
Yeah. You remind me just telling that story, you remind me of some of the YouTube videos or Facebook videos I've seen where it's like, the baby or the toddler trying sugar for the very first time and like they get a taste of it and their eyes just bulge and it's like, "What is this? Give me more of it," you know?
Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
they just kind of
It
shake. Those little
yeah.
babies like that shaking. You're like, you just gave them a speedball for crying out loud. I
Right?
mean, that's
Yeah.
got to be like a bomb going off in a little body.
Yeah. So, if someone came to you and said, "Look, Rob, you've lost a lot of weight. You're looking good. You health is so much better. I want some of this for myself. How do I get started?" What advice would you give them?
I would say that you need to. I would start with one thing. Like I would say, cut the sugar out of your diet first. You know, because you don't. If you go into it too hardcore, like you get the keto flu thing, and you're just miserable, and you're setting yourself up for failure. Do it a little bit at a time, cut out the sugar, then cut out the carbs, and then try to move your eating windows. If you usually eat at 8, try to move it to 10. If you have, dinner at 8, move it to 6, and just kind of close it in slowly. Don't jump into it too fast because it's quite a change, especially if you've never gone into ketosis before and your body's trying to figure out how to do it. I think with me this time around, it was a little bit easier because my body knew how to burn ketones. Oh, we've been here before. So this time, when after mom passed and I gained that weight, I just my body was like, oh yeah, here we go. It just kicked right into ketosis. I mean, within 24 hours, I was in ketosis.
Rob, how can we find you on YouTube?
Oh, that I've got a little YouTube channel there. It's called Homesteading Alaska to Maine. It's the name of the channel. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And
Nice.
just
So
it's just kind of me developing my homestead and just what I do day to day, and building the house. And the whole premise really is I'm trying to build a house for $20,000 because I've got a sawmill and I've got wood. So I'm trying, to see if I can actually bring this thing in is the challenge, and it's kind of the theme of the show, along with developing the rest of the homestead.
right. Wow, nice. And what's your kind of timeline for doing this? Like, are you looking at, a year, 2 years?
Yeah, I'm trying to do it. Well, I think it'll take me a total of 5 years to complete the house, but I'm trying to do the bulk of the construction in like 16 or 18 months, and I'm doing a wood framed foundation, which is not typical, right? Which a lot of people don't really know about, and I'm showing people how to do that because you can save tens of thousands of dollars if you don't have to buy concrete and rebar and hire 10 guys to come and put your foundation in. So it's kind of that niche, in there.
Nice. Well, I'll link to your channel in the show notes.
That would be
Rob,
great.
thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.